So hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Lisa Hart. Now if you've clicked on this video today, you've done it for one of two reasons. Either one, you're in your third trimester of pregnancy yourself, or number two, you're curious about pregnancy or looking to fall pregnant and want to know what to expect of those 3 trimesters. Now this video is only aimed at the third trimester, so if you do want some tips on the first 2, head into the description box below and they'll take you to my first and second trimester tips for pregnancy. So we're going to break down the third trimester into 10 key tips on how to stay fit and active during your third trimester and some of the problems that may occur during pregnancy and how you can help to alleviate them. So the first thing that you're going to notice during your third trimester, some of the symptoms you may have had during your first trimester rear their ugly head again. So things like exhaustion, you may have nausea, and you will also get some aches and pains. So you remember during your third trimester there is weight gain still occurring. For a lot of people that's when they really start to see their belly starting to develop and become quite heavy, and as your belly becomes heavier because the baby is getting bigger, it's going to affect the amount of aches and pains that you may have. It's going to have more of an impact on low back areas, your upper back, your chest area, because you're carrying excess weight in a shorter period of time to what you normally would have probably carried. So if you are exhausted during your pregnancy, if those feelings of nausea start to rear their ugly head again, make sure that you do listen to your body during your pregnancy. Make sure that if you are doing fitness, and it is strongly advised that you do remain fit and healthy throughout the 3 trimesters, unless suggested by your obstetrician or gynecologist, that you do continue to do exercise. But if you are exhausted and if you do feel sick, take a break, have a rest. It's not going to beat you up. Remember, like I've said before, this is not the period where we're looking for anything aesthetic. We're not looking to build and develop strength. This is all about maintenance of your fitness and making yourself feel mentally and physically healthy. If you have aches and pains, so if you are struggling from ligament pain, you may be restricted in some of the moves that you were doing previously. So if your ligaments are really struggling around your hip region, certain things such as like deeper squats or lunges may be an unadvisable exercise to do. If you struggle from low back pain, you want to make sure that you're doing things like your cat-cows, your bird dogs, anything to help strengthen those parts of the body, and I'll talk about those in a bit. So number 2 is water intake. So you need to really consider the amount of water that you're taking in during any sort of aerobic based exercise, strength based activity, whatever exercise you are doing. Make sure that you are having adequate water intake, constantly sipping during those breaks. You want to have water before, have water afterwards. Really make sure that you are keeping yourself hydrated. It's very easy to become dehydrated, and then that's not good for yourself or the baby. So some of the key exercises that can really help is point number 3. So things like a yogi squat is a really beneficial deep squat for you to do during your third trimester. Not only does it help to open up that hip region, it strengthens the glutes, which can often become weakened during pregnancy. Another one that you can do to help with the pelvic floor, remember pelvic floor is probably the most talked about region of your body, is doing a child's pose. Now remember, child's pose will really help to lengthen your pelvic floor and reduce any tension that you have around the pelvic region. Pelvic floor gets a lot of impact during pregnancy because there's a lot pushing down on it through the 9 months. So particularly during your third trimester, you will feel a lot of pressure down on your pelvic floor, and if that does happen, doing things like the child's pose can help to alleviate some of those stresses. And the other exercise that I would strongly advise is your cat-cow. Now the cat-cow, like we've said before, can really help to reduce low back pain, helps to strengthen and lengthen those muscles, and helps to alleviate any of the stress that you're having through this change in your centre of gravity. Now, just a quick reminder, if you are doing cat-cows, if you were doing them pre-pregnancy, the arch that you have during pregnancy will probably be greatly reduced. So even if you only get a slight arch in the back, that's fine. You don't need to be trying to really bend, because again, the more you bend, the more pressure you're putting onto your abdominal region. So where you're doing anything prone, so where the belly is dropping, you want to make sure that you are keeping that belly supported. So you want to make sure that if you are doing a cat-cow, that you contract those muscles. So do a nice exhale, breathe those muscles in just before you start doing the exercises. Hug your baby, keep them nice and tight, and that will help to support you throughout that move. So number 4 is about food and how you actually split up your meals throughout the day. Now you may have been a 3 big meal person a day up until this point, but during your third trimester there's a couple of things that may affect that. So one, if you are exercising, you want to make sure that you're fueling your body and that we're not seeing spikes and dips during the day. So it's easier to fuel your body with small healthy meals throughout the day so that we avoid those spikes and dips, and make sure that if you do exercise that you have something post workout. Particularly if you're exercising in the evening, you want to make sure that you have that evening snack just to help keep your blood sugar levels nice and stable throughout the night. So another thing, if you've had 3 big meals a day, is that as your belly continues to grow and your baby taking up space where your stomach is and really putting pressure on there, so you will find that you may become fuller quicker quicker, so it's actually easier to eat smaller meals to allow that stomach to digest it through without feeling completely full before your next meal. Number 5 is to keep consistent. So if you have been doing exercise throughout your pregnancy, try and be as consistent as possible and try and work out throughout those 3 trimesters. Unless your obstetrician or gynecologist says not to exercise during your 3rd trimester, it is strongly advisable for so many reasons. It will help reduce the likelihood of gestational diabetes, help reduce preeclampsia, it will help reduce your C-section, reduce your low back pain, help to ease constipation. So there's so many benefits to continue doing it, but you want to keep it consistent as much as possible. Like I said with point 1, if you are exhausted and you are nauseous, you miss a workout, it's not the end of the world, but try and keep as consistent as possible throughout the 3rd trimester as much as possible. You can switch up activities, so if you were doing 20-30 minutes a day with Zumba, you can switch it up to doing another aerobic based exercise. Just remember, if you've not done anything like strength training, maybe stick to body weight exercises rather than picking up those weights. If you were doing weight training up until the 3rd trimester and you were using rather heavy weights, just evaluate how much fatigue you're going to get from heavier weights and see whether you need to drop your weight slightly. If you've not exercised at all up until this point and you're in your 3rd trimester and you're thinking, okay, maybe I should have started exercising, there are a couple of things that you can do. One of them being walking, so you can start off at a comfortable pace. If you've never done exercising before, I would suggest really going for beginner based workouts, and with those beginner based workouts you probably want to be doing 5 to 10 minutes and giving yourself enough time, giving yourself enough water breaks. Have a chair to assist you with exercises, have a wall to assist you with exercises, and don't push yourself into a move that you don't feel comfortable doing. So point number 6 relates again to that pelvic floor, so it's all about connecting those deep core muscles. So during most moves in your pregnancy, when you are doing an exercise, you want to make sure that you are connecting that pelvic floor by holding those contractions, so doing things like your Kegels during a deep squat. So as you do your squat, you're going to remember to draw in at 12 and 6, in at 3 and 9, really hold that urine in as you are doing that move, because that will help to strengthen your pelvic floor, and it's making a connection between all those core muscles and that pelvic floor as you're doing that exercise, and will help to strengthen it throughout your pregnancy. Please make sure though that after you have done an exercise or you've done a move, that you do relax that pelvic floor, because you don't want to be trying to hold it as long as possible. Your body needs to be aware of the contraction and the relaxation phase. Point number 7 relates to stress-free training. Now for the 3rd trimester, for a lot of women this is a very scary time. It can have a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, you don't know what's going to happen, you're getting that step closer to giving birth, and I think the 3rd trimester is the first time that reality really sinks in. So stress-free training can really help to alleviate any of those issues or any of those fears that you may be having during your pregnancy. So some of the things you can do for stress-free training, obviously pick an exercise like yoga. That's a very beneficial type of exercise to do. You can either reduce the amount of reps that you're doing and increase the time that you're spending on a rep. So by doing so, you can focus more on things like breathing, reducing that heart rate. So number 8 is about engaging your abs. Now a lot of people get scared to train abs during pregnancy. If you actually train your abs, it's known to help you not only prenatally but postnatally as well. And when we talk about training abs, it's not doing crunches. We know that things like crunches, leg raises, leg lowers put extra stress on your body and increase the rate of that diastasis recti, which I've spoken about before. So there are moves that you can do, and some of them start as simply as focusing on your breathing and how you then contract that core. Now I'm going to be doing a video this week on a core friendly workout for your pregnancy. So if you want to find out more about the core and how to train effectively during your pregnancy, make sure that you click onto Wednesday's workout, because I'll be able to go in more depth for you. So number 9 is adaptations you may make to some of the exercises that you do during your pregnancy. In your 3rd trimester, you've got to remember that there's a lot more pressure on this abdominal region. So some of the prone positions that you are doing may need to be either elevated, so you may do them from a wall position or a chair position, or you may stabilize your exercises slightly more than you would. So if you were doing a plank on your toes, you may drop down to your knees instead of doing it as a full plank. And just consider the amount of weight that you are holding. So if you are holding heavier weights during your 3rd trimester and you've got increased weight anyway on your body, this may take more energy out on you, so maybe consider reducing the weights that you're using. But again, that's completely based on you you and how you are feeling during your pregnancy. Number 10, my last final tip, is just some of the exercises that you can do if you suffer from either kyphosis or lordosis. So kyphosis is again that rounding of the shoulders that will continue to occur during your pregnancy if you don't strengthen the upper back. You may want to do chest stretches on the wall. Another thing that you can do is a hip hinged row. Another thing that you can do is a side lunge with a single arm row. Again, that's going to open up that half of the body, and then when you switch to the other side, you're opening up this side of the body. So it's all about opening up the chest area and strengthening that back. So for lordosis, this is the tightening of the erector spinae and your hip flexors. So we're looking at exercises that can help alleviate those certain pains. So one thing you can do is a standing hip flexor stretch. You can also do the kneeling hip flexor stretch, or you can do a cat-cow. Exercises that you can do are bird dog. You can do planks, but if you're in your third trimester, you may want to drop onto your knees. You may want to do it from a wall position. So I really hope that today's video helped you out in understanding what you can expect through your third trimester and ways in which to help it through exercise and fitness. Bye for now.